Noah, hello everyone. My name is Jasha Lyons, and I'm the Census Community Builder with Oklahoma Policy Institute and Together Oklahoma. Thank you for joining in tonight. We are hosting another virtual live event for census participation in our great state of Oklahoma. We have some special guests who you see on the screen, Braden Williams and Brad Gernand. I'll get to them quickly, but first I just want to make sure that we're grounded in the situation as we're all living today, the current COVID-19 viral pandemic. This is the reason why we continue to do the virtual events rather than in person. Just being mindful of current health recommendations regarding physical distancing, and also just acknowledging those of you who have been out front working to either protect our communities or to provide services for our communities. I think Braden is considered an essential worker, so thank you, Braden, for being out there. Many folks couldn't shelter in place when it was highly recommended within our state. And so we acknowledge that within our work at Oklahoma Policy Institute is identifying those gaps in policy, the inequity in policy, and making sure that we are able to bring the people's voices to those policy makers, the lawmakers that need to hear, from each and every one of you. So again, thank you to those public health professionals, the grocery store workers, the delivery truck drivers, our garbage workers, the hospital staff, U.S. Postal Service, so many of you. And anyway, without further ado, again, we're here for the census. Census, real briefly, is just a physical count of everybody in the United States and 5 U.S. territories. Every 10 years, as mandated by the Constitution, we have an obligation to count everybody, regardless of immigration status, regardless of age. Any babies that were born on or before April 1st, they need to be counted. And all of this is to tell the government how to direct billions of dollars. I believe it's about $880 billion of taxpayer dollars to our communities. It helps us to plan hospitals. It helps us to plan where clinics go, how much public education funding needs to be placed in our school systems. It impacts even Pell Grants for college students. It definitely impacts our roads and transportation, public transportation for some who in our state who have access to that. It encompasses so much of everybody's life. So this is why we are here to push out the census, encourage you all to complete it, which you can do safely from a distance. You can do that online. If you're able to have internet access, you could utilize your smartphone to go online, fill out the census. It's about 10 minutes, give or take, not too many questions. It's confidential. Your individual information is federally protected, which means that there's federal law that tells the Census Bureau your information cannot be made public to any law enforcement agency, to any immigration agency, or even to any housing authority. So I know some of us in our communities might have, 4 people on a lease, but maybe have 10 people living in the household. You will not be in trouble if you fill out the census and count all those people. We need you to count all those people. Again, it directs services and funding to our cities, to our communities. I'm going to go ahead and introduce, before I introduce our guests, I will say, for those of you that are tuning in and watching, we do have a gift card giveaway. So we will put your name in a drawing for any of you who share this stream. So you can share it on Facebook and hopefully you get picked. We have 3 gift cards to give away tonight. So we'll make that announcement at the end. And then without further ado, I'm going to introduce just briefly our guest, starting with Brad Gernand. He is the Senior Communications Specialist for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And then we have our musician tonight and our entertainment, Braden Williams. He is a Choctaw tribal member and a relatively new musician, having just learned to play over the last 2 years. He has an amazing story of tragedy, recovery, and triumph, which has led him to his path in music and performing. And so I'll go ahead and let Brad kick us off with what your census efforts are at Choctaw Nation, and then we'd like to hear from Braden. Take it
Holly
away, Brad.
Yeah, thank you. I'd say what caught us by surprise in the Choctaw Nation is how poorly we fared 10 years ago in the 2010 census. We've been meeting for about a year now. We have a complete count committee in the tribal government. The chief convened it. And we began meeting in June last year to figure out, did we have a problem? And if we did, how might we fix it? And what we figured out was roughly 80% of Choctaw tribal members back in 2010 were not counted as Choctaw tribal members. They may have filled out the census and sent it in, but for federal funding purposes, they weren't counted as Choctaw. And we've had a steep lack of funding since that time. We do continue receiving federal funds, but we're not receiving as much as we should based on the actual tribal population. So we've been busy trying to fix that and make sure that all our tribal members know not only to fill out the census, but to fill it out a specific way. We talked with the Census Bureau. We learned that for our tribal members, they need to fill it out and say that they are members of the Choctaw Nation. If they just say Choctaw, they're not going to be counted as us because there are 3 federally recognized tribal Choctaw tribes in the country. One's in Mississippi, one's in Louisiana. So that's our message. We want people to fill it out, and we need them to fill it out a certain way because of people like Braden. We are doing good things with the money that we're bringing in from the federal government. And Braden's story is very uplifting in that regard. So over to Braden.
Hey, can everybody hear me? Good deal. My name's Braden Williams. I'm 20 years old. I work at a feed store in Gernand, and a few years back I got in a car incident. Car wreck, got thrown out of my truck, rolled it a few times, and I broke my back. And Choctaw really helped me out getting through that with physical therapy and all that stuff. So I filled out the census, and you should too, because it helps people like me that need it. Help people that need help.
Right on. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us tonight. For this special event. I was intentional in making sure to include the communities in Oklahoma who reflect areas in our state that have been typically undercounted or underrepresented. So Southeast Oklahoma has had a lower percentage of self-response to the census in 2010. As far as our overall state response rate, we're still several points behind the national average, which the national average is right about 60%. We're right at I think 54%. And it shows that we're on pace for 2010, but if we're looking as you see below, in 2010, only 3 out of 4 residents participated in the census. So basically about 70% of the households in Oklahoma completed the census. That's not 100%, which means not 100% of the funding that we deserve to have came back to Oklahoma. Only about 70% of the billions of dollars that our state desperately needs came back. So with that said, we don't want to be at 2010 pace. We want to exceed that. We want to be even further ahead. We want to ensure that we get an accurate and complete count. And again, Brad can share very more narrative regarding what has happened to a community such as Choctaw Nation. Outside of that, I want to go ahead and kick it over back to Braden and remind folks though, go ahead, feel free to drop into the comments where you're from, where you're watching from, share out this live event. Yes, Choctaw Nation tribal members there. Good to have you. Yeah, please share out the event, and you will be entered into a drawing for the one of 3 $25 gift cards. Go ahead, Braden, whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm way better at singing and playing the guitar than I am talking in front of people. my wife with another man cost me 99. On a prison farm in Georgia, close to the Florida line. Well, I've been here for 2 long years. Finally made the warden my friend. He sentenced me to a life of ease, taking care of old Red. Old Red, he's the damnedest dog that I'd ever seen. Got a nose that can smell 2-day trail. He's a 4-legged tracking machine. You can't consider yourself mighty lucky to get past the gators and a quicksand bed. All these years that I've been here, ain't nobody got past Red. And the warden's saying, come on somebody, why don't you run? Old Red's itching, a little fun. Get my lantern, get my gun, little like a tree, and come. Well, I paid off the guard and slipped out a letter to my cousin up in Tennessee. Oh, and he brought down a blue tick hound. She was pretty as she could be. I pinned her up in the swampland about a mile just south of the gate. I take old Red for his evening run, not just drop him off, wait. And the warden saying, come on somebody, why don't you run? Old Red's itching, little fun. Get my lantern, get my gun, little like a tree, and come. Red got real used to seeing his lady every night. So I kept him away for 3 or 4 days. Waited till the time got right. Made my run with the evening sun, and I smiled when I heard him turn red. I was headed north to Tennessee. No, Red was headed south. And the warden sang, come on somebody, why don't you run? Red's itching, little fun. Get my lantern, get my gun, little like a tree, and gum. Red-haired blue ticks all in the south. Love got me in here, love got me out. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. This next song is pretty relatable to today. It's called Long Hot Summer Day. Well, I'm gonna pick up some of these empties, Lord, soon as I find where they lay. Tied off and jolly, leaving my ends on a long, hot summer day. For every day I'm working on the Illinois River, keep a half a day off with pay. Looked on both picking up barges on a long, hot summer day. Gal every weekend, she's a good old gal, okay. But she's sitting there waiting by a window fan on a long, hot summer day. For every day I'm working on the Illinois River, get a half a day off with pay. Looks on, but picking up barges on a long hot summer day. Well, last night we had pork for supper, and tomorrow will be chicken consomme and a fruit jar full of iced tea on a long hot summer day. For every day I'm working on the Illinois River, eat a half a day off with pay. Looks over picking up barges on a long hot summer day. Well, we dropped a man off in Beardstown when we got off yesterday. Gonna get off down in Auburn on a long hot summer day. For every day I'm working on the Illinois River, need a half a day off with pay. Looked over picking up barges on a long hot summer day. Gotta have a drink of water. Let's see, what are we gonna do next? We'll slow it down a little bit for this next one. They said I was nothing but a troublemaker, never up to no good. You were the perfect thought American girl, wouldn't trust me even if you could. You were sneaking out your window every night, riding shotgun in my car. Go to the river and find us a spot, and we probably went a little too far, just a little too far. I was gonna be your forever, you were gonna be my wife. We didn't know any better, didn't have a clue about life. Not what you wanted or what you needed, we could meet in between. We were gonna be the greatest love story this town has ever seen. You went up to college and I got a job. I was working at 9 to 5. Dreaming of the days when you were in my arms, I never felt so alive. Spent my days working, spent my nights drinking, howling at the moon. Dreaming for the day when you were coming back, though we couldn't go too soon, couldn't go too soon. And I was gonna be your forever, you were gonna be my wife. We didn't know any better, didn't have a clue about life. Not what you wanted or what you needed, we could meet in between. We were gonna be the greatest love story this town has ever seen. You came back after a long 4 years. College boyfriend didn't work out. We went out for a couple of drinks to find out who we are now. Sure, we changed way deep down. You had the same old feeling for me. Went to the store and bought you a rag, and I got down on one knee, down on one knee. And I said, I'm gonna be your forever. Baby, will you be my wife? Now that we know a little better, we could have a real nice life. Now I'm what you wanted, you're what you needed. We can meet in between. We were gonna be the greatest love story this town has ever seen. We were gonna be the greatest love story this world has ever seen. So baby, say yes to me.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear.
Yeah, I can hear you clapping.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that set. It was really, really, really nice. It's definitely a mood. Oh, I see somebody asked about if they get the gift card, when will they get it? So the way that we're distributing gift cards, if you happen to be one of our 3 winners tonight, you can receive it physically, or you can receive it virtually, which means in an email format. And once we announce the winners, we'll ask that you message or inbox our page here with your information, the way you'd like to receive it, whether you want a physical card or if you prefer the email version. And they're just, yeah, $25 gift cards. So thank you for those of you who are responding to the fact that you've all participated in the census. Representation, accurate representation is definitely necessary. The census does help us determine congressional districts, legislative districts, which is crucial and key to ensuring that we are having equal and accurate representation. I want to kick it back over to Brad. You were talking, you've been talking, about what the impacts of the lack of or the undercount of a census does for a community. But I wanted to know what are ongoing efforts amidst this viral pandemic regarding y'all's work over at Choctaw Nation.
That's a good question. So the Census Bureau stopped all its field work for several weeks because of the pandemic. They've just restarted, but that concerned us because it meant that there's been a delay. And so that means a lot of people who don't have street addresses didn't hear from the Census Bureau until about now. Because if you have a PO box or if you live on a rural route, as a lot of our tribal members do, they haven't heard anything yet. Hi, Joey, Tom, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So what we've been doing is we have an active communications campaign going on, and we're trying to reach all our tribal members to get the word to them. And so we're using Facebook and newspaper ads, TV ads, radio ads, billboards, articles in our tribal newspaper, just about every channel we can use to keep the information coming to the tribal members even during the delay. The census was supposed to conclude on about July 24th. Now they've extended it to October 31st. So we've got to keep people engaged and interested until they complete the census so that they understand how important it is, right?
Yeah, it's a long way to go in some respects, but also then it's not, depending on which county you're residing in. I know just a few weeks back there were still several counties in Oklahoma that only had single-digit response rates. And when I say response rates, that's basically participation rates. Again, you can fill it out a number of ways safely from a distance. But as Brad mentioned, there are census workers who have been sent out to homes in rural areas that only have a PO box because of their geographical isolation, if you will. That's census terminology. But they are simply dropping off the paper form or the packet to those households. They are not engaging with person-to-person contact right now, just in awareness of the pandemic. And so if you are one of those households that does receive the packet itself, it is already stamped for you. So it's pretty efficient with respect to just filling it out, those 7 to 9 questions, depending on if you're the head of household, putting it back in its already stamped envelope and then sending it, via the postal service. But we need everybody. We need all of you, those of you who live with people that you're related to, and those of you that live with people that you're not related to, maybe they're roommates. You need to get counted. again, if you have small ones in your home, children, please count the babies, please count the children. Anyone that was born on or before April 1st living in your household, they need to be counted. Children are the most undercounted group in the nation when it comes to the census. There's a variety of reasons why. And when you think about single caregivers, maybe they're a single parent, single grandparent, raising children, and they failed to do the census, or maybe they didn't even know what the census was. Those children then are at risk of underfunded public education, at risk of lack of access to services such as child health insurance programs, Medicaid programs, which a lot of our Medicaid recipients are on student care. Those are children in our state that have access to healthcare right now as it is. But if we had, an accurate count, that would be even more access to health insurance for those children. So we have a question. If I'm not Choctaw, but my spouse is, how should I fill it out properly? Brad, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Thank you, Jonathan, for your question. That's a question because in the Choctaw Nation, we have a lot of mixed households in which one parent is Choctaw, but the other is not. So that means the children are. And so what we would hope everybody will do in those cases is list the first person. They no longer call for head of household. This census doesn't address that. They simply have you list people, person 1, person 2, person 3. So we'd like you to list as person 1, one of your Choctaw children or the Choctaw parent, if that person is age 15 or older. That means that the entire household will be counted as Choctaw. And for federal funding purposes, that means additional money that comes to our programs through grants. So Jonathan, just so you're aware, for the tribal members in your household, the Choctaw Nation this year, I think, has a national budget of $1.2 billion. All of that is self-earned through our business enterprises, except for 24%. And that 24% comes to us in federal grants. Those federal grants do a lot of important stuff like medical programs, social services, healthcare. So say if when Braden got injured, we used grant-funded programs to help rehabilitate the injuries. So that's why we're so concerned about this, because every dollar counts. We'll certainly make it count.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the question, Jonathan. Again, we are doing the gift card giveaway, 3 gift cards tonight. You could be one of those if you are the winner that is called. And the way you can be entered into the drawing is by sharing this live stream out to the interwebs. No, share it on Facebook. Yeah, we will keep track of who's sharing, and we'll draw 3 winners tonight. So you're welcome, Jonathan. How do you say you're welcome in Choctaw? Do you have a word for it?
We typically say thank you, and that is yakaki.
Okay.
I'm not aware of a specific you're welcome, but I think there is one. Right.
We say nga in Seminole. So even though I'm wearing my Pawnee shirt, I'm 5 tribes actually, because I'm from Oklahoma and a lot of us are intertribal. I should say I'm intertribal, but we say nga. But okay, enough of the census. Let's go back to Braden.
She likes stealing from Salvation Army, makes her feel like a movie, batting her eyes with a crooked smile, wondering why the hell I'm here. Say like any film that I recall, this ain't exactly the Italian job. This kind of stuff is for soccer mom, who's dying to be young again. She dancing around the room in a cheetah print bodysuit. Roll the credits when the scene is through, run a story of a messed up kid. Tells me I've got a problem with drinking, loves going out on the weekends. Throws me the keys and says pretty please, and wonders if I'll drive her home. You think if she knew my weakness, she'd try to help me to beat it. That's why I love her so. Since Roanoke, I don't take her out to shop no more. She dancing around the room in her cheetah print bodysuit. Roll the credits when the scene is through on the story of a messed up kid. She dancing around the room in her cheetah print bodysuit. Roll the credits when the scene is through on the story of a messed up kid. Roll the credits when the scene is through on the story of a messed up kid. Let's see, what do I do next? Oh, this is a good one. I got a little change in my pocket, going jangling, wanna call you on the telephone, give you a ring. Each time we talk, I get the same old thing, always nookie, see until I get away from right. Put in my baby, don't put my love on no shelf. She said, don't you give me no lines, keep your hands to yourself. Baby, why you wanna treat me this way? You know I'm still your lover boy, and I still feel the same way. That's when she told me a story about free milk and a cow. Said, no, can you see till I get away from vow. Put in my baby, don't put my love on no shelf. She said, don't you give me no lines, keep your hands to yourself. They say I wanted her real bad, and I was about to give in. So when she started talking about true love, started talking about sin, I said, honey, I'll live with you for the rest of my life. Said no hugging, no kissing, till you make me your wife. Put in my baby, don't put my love on no shelf. She said, don't you give me no lines, keep your hands to yourself. Thank you. Let's see, what do I do now? You can tell the world, you never would my girl. You can burn my clothes when I'm gone. You can tell your friends what a fool I've been, laughing, joking about me on the phone. You can tell my arms go back to the farm. You can tell my feet to hit the floor. You can tell my lips to tell my fingertips they won't be reaching out for you no more. But don't tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, just don't think you'd understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, he might blow him up and kill this man. You can tell your mom to move to Arkansas. You can tell your dog to bite my leg. Tell your brother Cliff, whose fist can tell my lips, he never really liked me anyway. Oh, tell your Aunt Louise, tell her anything you please. Myself already knows it's not okay. Watching for my eyes, watch out for my mind. He might be walking out on me today. But don't tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, just don't think he'd understand. If you tell my heart, my aching, breaking heart, he might blow up and kill this man. Ooh, ooh. Thank you.
Thank you. Achy Breaky Heart takes us back, huh?
The mullet, right?
And it kind of makes me sad. No, I'm just kidding. So Braden, would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of how you came to start playing the guitar? Did you, are you self-taught, or is there any other musicians in your family?
My mom and my grandma sing as well, but there's no other like musicians that play instruments really. When I got hurt, I broke 2 vertebrae in my back, and I had spinal fusion, which I have rods and screws holding me all together and stuff. And so for like, a while, I just had to sit around on the couch and do nothing. And I had a guitar, and I finally learned how to play it. Everybody has a guitar sitting in the closet, or leaning in the corner. Just finally had some free time to learn how to play it.
Nice.
Got to where I liked it a lot. Can't stop doing it now.
You're really good. You're really talented. And I'm super appreciative of your talents, bringing that here. And I'm just glad to have made the connections with your tribal nation, with Choctaw Nation. I know plenty of Choctaws, but just in this formal capacity, and to be able to, highlight you. Where else can we find your music?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Braden Williams Music.
Okay. Braden Williams Music, everyone, if you want to learn more, and also you're for hire. I don't know if our state's quite opened it up for you to play in person yet, but we can hire you virtually. There we go. Braden Williams Music. I just want to put in a plug for the census. So I also am somewhat of a musician. I went to, when I was in elementary, we had orchestra offered through our music program. So you could either go sing or you could learn to play an instrument. And I decided I wanted to play an instrument because I didn't feel that I had the chops to sing. So I learned how to play the viola, and I played it for a long time, from like 5th grade to high school. I kind of got caught up with other things in high school, sports and other extracurriculars, that I couldn't like continue on all the practicing. So anyway, but being that I was in a public school, and also my family, like yourself, we didn't have those type of instruments around. So the school was able to provide me with an instrument, and I credit that to public education funding supporting these type of programs. And we couldn't have had that kind of funding if we weren't counted in the census. See how I did that? So does Choctaw Nation offer any kind of like creative programming that you could connect back to the census, Bradley?
Tell me more about your thought to make sure I understand it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that you all support using census data to support public health, to support, oh my gosh, I can't even remember all the programs that Choctaw Nation has, but do you all also do anything related to arts or music that you rely on census data for, contribute to the schools in your areas?
I think that we do, but I can't think of what they are at the moment. We do have an active history program, and we do all kinds of cultural things. Chief is very interested in making sure the Choctaw language not only survives, but is viable and workable. And so we have an active Choctaw language program, and we have active history programs. We're very proud of the fact that these have survived well. And in fact, we've become special friends with the Irish, as I'll bet you've seen in the news.
Yes, yes.
And the Irish are doing the exact same thing. When the British took over Ireland, they instituted English as the official language, and the Irish language started going away. We have a very impressive Choctaw language program, and we're very pleased about that. So I would say, yes, we do. We do use, I think, census-funded programs to help support cultural and historical activities.
That's awesome. That's I can understand as a tribal member the importance of language. It goes hand in hand with your culture, your history, all the knowledge from from before to who you are now going forward into the future. So yeah, thank you both for sharing in your stories and in your information. I love the shout outs that we're getting for people representing Northwest OKC. All right. I'm not from Oklahoma City. We got Kyoto in the house. Atoka. I love that Jessica is just putting them up. Velma, Oklahoma. I saw Wright City. Idabel. Yes. Idabel. Boswell. Yep, there's Wright City. I don't know this one. Is that Rattan? Rattan? Rattan. Okay.
Just
Rattan.
suburban antlers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not well traveled in the southeast part of our state. Boswell. Awesome. Thank you so much to all of you for joining. Again, if you share out this event via Facebook, we will put your name in a drawing for one of 3 gift cards tonight. We have 3 to give away, and we are going to pull your name from those of you that are sharing. So please continue to share this out. This message is so important. We need everyone to do the census. We need it to be completed. You can also, in your own time, can text your, check as you're checking in on your relatives, you can, throw in the question of, have you completed the census? Or do you know about the census? Do you know how to complete the census? It's easy as just, sending a simple question with some of your check-ins to family members and friends, as we are, some of us still sheltering in place at this time. Tushka, Oklahoma. Good to have all of you. Aw, hi, Melissa. Well, Braden, if you've caught your breath, I'd love to hear a couple more songs from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here we go. There's steps of glad that'll ease all my pain, that will settle my brain. It's the first one today. There's steps of glad that'll hide all my tears, that'll drown all my fears. Brother, I'm on my way, wondering where you are tonight, wondering if you are alright, wondering if you think of me. Yeah, my misery. There's steps of glass, fill it up to the brim, till my troubles grow dim. It's my first one today. I love that song. Let's do. How about an original, one I wrote? This one's called Hit Up Downtown. Jacked up Chevy, rolling with my windows down. My man, if you're ready, let's tear up this town. I paid today, got money to blow. What do you say? And if we're gonna go, then let's go. Let's heat up downtown and see what's going on. I fill up the gas and cruise till it's gone. Let's heat up downtown and see what's up. Probably nothing, we can ride in my truck. Let's heat up downtown and see what's shaking. Ain't a rule, it wouldn't break in just in case you win and change. Let's heat up downtown. Hey, let's heat up downtown. Hitting the road, me and my friends. Time's so good, gonna wish they'd never end. The sun goes down and the city lights up. Main Street downtown, well, that's where you'll find us. Get up downtown to see what's going on. I fill up the gas, cruise till it's gone. Let's heat up downtown to see what's up. Probably nothing, we can ride in the truck, let's go downtown and see what's shaking. Ain't a rule, it ain't worth them breaking it just in case. When it changes, let's go downtown. Hey, hey, let's heat up downtown. Hey, hey, let's heat up downtown. All right, I got a couple more. Let's see. 30 miles up the Gulf Stream, hear the south wind moan. Ridges are getting lower, strip boats coming home. Old man down at the corner slowly turns his head, takes a sip from his whiskey bottle, and this is what he said. I was born in the rain on a parts train underneath the Louisiana moon. Don't mind the strain of a hurricane that come around every June. High black water, the devil's daughter. She's hard, she's cold, and she's mean. Nobody taught her. Takes a lot of water to wash away New Orleans. Man came down from Chicago. He gonna set that lady right. He said it needs to be at least 3 feet higher and we'll make it through the night. But the old man down at the court said, don't do that, boy. Water'll be down by the morning. We'll be back to Illinois. And I was born in a rain on a pontoon train underneath the Louisiana moon. Don't mind the strain of a hurricane come around every June. High black water, the devil's daughter. She's hard, she's cold, and she's mean. Nobody taught her. Takes a lot of water to wash away New Orleans. And I was born in the rain on a pontoon train underneath the Louisiana moon. Don't mind the strain of a hurricane. They come around every June. High black water, the devil's daughter. She's hard, she's cold, and she's mean. Nobody taught her. Takes a lot of water to wash away New Orleans. Nobody taught her. Takes a lot of water to wash away New Orleans. Let's see. Do I need to do one more?
Yeah, go for it.
One more?
It's up to you. You could do 1, 2 more. We still, yeah.
Let's see. I hear the train a-coming, rolling around a bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Locked up in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down to San. I was just a baby. Mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't play around with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. Bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car, probably drinking coffee, smoking big cigars. But I know I had it coming, but I know I can't be. But those people keep moving, and that's what torture. If you freed me from this prison, if the railroad train was mine, bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line. Far from most of the prison, that's where I want to stay. And I'll let that lonesome whistle blow all my blues away. Let's see, we'll tune it down a little bit for this next one. When you see me out tonight, tearing up the promenade, people stop and step aside so I can move along. Is it just because they're friendly or the fact that I am gone? Stepping over lines of the passing travel, living on the high side. Better keep it on the low down. Get you feeling just right. Think I have to go and sit down. Do you reckon that they notice? Do you think that they believe? I've been getting into meanest on a dark end of the street. Do my eyes tell my condition? Does my breath show where I've been? Am I talking in and out of the company that I'm in? Living on the high side. You better keep it on the low down. Get you feeling just right. Think I have to go and sit down. Sweating like a preacher in the presence of the Lord, shaking like a leaf in the middle of a storm, jarring my bones. Wouldn't much fret if my friends were all here, but there's people in the corner and they starting to stare, having a ball, poking fun at me. Living on the high side. Better keep it on low down. Thank you.
So much. Those were good songs to close us out for tonight. We were able to pull up the winners of the gift cards for this evening. The first winner we were able to pull up was Joey Tom. Joey Tom, if you're still with us, if you could message us on the page and send us either your email or your physical address that we could mail the card to. The next person we have is Kermit A. Thomas III. If you're still with us, could you also do the same? All the winners, we need you to do the same. Message us on the Together Oklahoma Facebook page with your email and or your physical address you want the card to be mailed to you if you need a physical card. And the last name we pulled up was Carrie Ward. So Carrie Ward, if you're able to go ahead and message the Together Oklahoma Facebook page and let us know either an email address or a physical address that you want the card. So again, thank you for sharing out, and thank you to Braden for this entertainment for the evening. It's always our duty to uplift our Oklahoma locals, especially our tribal members, in my opinion. Brad, do you have any final remarks to make?
I do. I was thinking about something you said. You had mentioned you'd been in the school orchestra in Pawnee, and
yeah.
and that it may have been federally funded, and if it was, it probably was derived from census numbers. And I realized, that's interesting. Let's tease on that thread for just a quick second before we go. Earlier this week, I had something happen, which I swear I didn't arrange just for this, but I was looking on Facebook and a buddy of mine from school days posted, and he said something I could see on the tiny iPhone screen. He had something to do with like submitting his census. I could see the envelope and it looked like he'd filled it out. And so I said, I clicked, I liked it, and said, thanks. Well, he sent back a message pretty quick and said, absolutely not. No, you misunderstood. I didn't fill out the census. That's a federal form. I don't fill out federal forms. I'm guessing he probably does fill out his taxes since it's required, but I'm guessing what he actually meant was he doesn't fill out anything that's not required, and census isn't. But as I was thinking about that, trying to figure out like what he thought, I realized a lot of people, including ourselves, which we didn't really understand this either, he doesn't understand that there is a clear direct link between each of us who fills out the census and money coming to work. And so he probably has no idea that the fact that he didn't fill out the census means that $3,900 each year for 10 years is being denied to Oklahoma, like it could be to Pushmataha County where he lives, or the town of Clayton where he lives, or the Choctaw Nation or something. So there's a direct link that we probably should just make clear to everybody.
Right on, that is true. So if you don't fill out your census, we continue to talk about funding, but the dollar amount, as has been released by the State Complete Count Committee, which Oklahoma has, but I will mention too that our state government, our legislature, didn't fund the census outreach. The funding that is helping us put on this event tonight is not from any state governmental entity. We do our own fundraising at Oklahoma Policy Institute, and this is purely through our organization, how we're able to reach you, the audience, but also to provide us the ability to encourage our fellow Oklahomans to do the census. And so with all that said, when you don't complete the census, you as an individual do, we all lose dollars, like regardless of your age. If you're not counting the babies, that's $3,900 per child, per person. And those are the latest figures. So it's extremely critical why we are, doing this event tonight, but also that we're impressing upon all of you out there to complete your census. And, just echoing the gratitude back to Choctaw Nation for all your outreach efforts in making sure that your citizens are aware of how to fill out the census when it comes to tribal identity, when it comes to the identity of the home, of the household. As you mentioned, they're no longer going by head of household, and that's archaic language in any way, but it's good to know that anybody 15 years or older could be listed as person one in the home, which would give the information to the census of it being a Native home, of it being a Choctaw home. So, Braden, do you have any final remarks for the evening? Any shout outs again for how we can find you?
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to the Choctaw Physical Therapy Center. They helped me get back to where I am now super fast, faster than I could have done it anywhere else, I bet. So big shout out to those guys. Make sure you follow me and like me on Facebook at Braden Williams Music and Instagram too. And fill out your census.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This event, again, was put on by Oklahoma Policy Institute and Together Oklahoma. Shout out to the team there. Shout out to Jessica behind the scenes. You cannot see her, but she's been producing our virtual events, putting up the graphics and all the information for how to reach any of us. I will go ahead and let you know we have June Pride events next month, as well as honoring Juneteenth that occurs in June as well. Our next event is June 7th, which is a Sunday beginning at 5 p.m. We're going to bring back virtual karaoke. So I hope you all will come back and see us for this event and continue to follow Together Oklahoma and Oklahoma Policy Institute. Thank you so much, y'all. Have a good night.